Here. Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, everyone. We'll move to general public input, but if it's on the agenda, we'll get to that. But if you have something else that you would like to speak about, this is the time to do it. All right, seeing none. We'll move on to 1E, Planning Commissioners disclose any conflicts of interest.
None.
Seeing none. We'll move on to 1F, approval of the agenda.
I'd motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Isman second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gadd,
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington,
Yes.
Commissioner Snooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Evans,
Yes.
Chair Nyberg.
Yes. All right, we'll move on to item number 2, public hearing agenda on the 2023-10 Pine Valley Foursquare Church rezone for Hope Community Christian Academy. Ms. Nicole?
Yes. So good evening, Planning Commissioners, Chair Nyberg, and public. I'm Nicole Killian, Director of Community Development for the town of Bayfield. And this is a request from the Pine Valley Foursquare Church. The owner of the property and the applicant is Hope Community Christian Academy. So the academy is proposing to locate behind the Pine Valley Church property. So here's the current Pine Valley Church property off 501, and they're proposing to locate on this property. Currently they are in Ignacio, so they'd be moving up to the Bayfield area. The site is approximately 10.3 acres in size, and it's currently zoned R10, which is single family residential. That zone was established when the property was annexed as part of the Dove Ranch annexations back in 2005, 2006. And so it was zoned at that time, same zoning as most of Dove Ranch, except for the North Taylor Circle area, which is more of a medium density residential zone. This property to the east is also zoned R10 single family residence, and that allows for properties that are average 10,000 square feet in size for the property area. So they are proposing, because they want to locate a school, it's a private school. Private schools are not allowed in the R10 zone, so they do need to rezone the property in order for the school to locate at that location. There's a few different options in our zones, designations that do allow for schools. There's the community service zone as well as commercial zones. So those are only zones that allow for schools within the town limits. And so rather than looking at a commercial zone, community service zone was the most appropriate for this location for the school. This is actually already annexed into the town, but the church properties, the church owns this property as well as the property to the north, have not been annexed into the town. So like I said, 10.3 acres. They're looking at a pre-K to 8th grade school at this point in time, which is 130 students with teachers and faculty. They're looking at 2 modular structures for the classrooms that are existing. The Animas High School off of Highway 160 West in Durango were using the modular structures, and now they have a new school up at Fort Lewis campus. And so the Hope Christian would like to utilize those modulars. They do also have the Los Pinos ditch that runs through the property. There's a few areas that is piped, and then the rest of the areas it's open. So they're going to need to work with Los Pinos on that. And then they also will be taking access off of County Road 501, which is the current driveway for the church. It is a driveway easement area that also leads to oil and gas roads. And so they'll be needing to work with CDOT and, well, mainly the county, because the county has jurisdiction over County Road 501 to get a new access permit to add the additional use. But CDOT also wants them to look at, as part of their traffic analysis for the next stage, the intersection of 160 and 501 as well. I did find some older pictures when the modulars were used for Animas High School, so I just wanted to include those so you can get an idea of what those structures are going to look like. They have prepared some concept plans for the rezone. This project, the rezone's not their final stage. They do need to do a use by review, which is a site plan review process that needs to get planning commission approval. So they will be back in front of the planning commission for that approval in order for the school to locate at that property. And that does not need Board of Trustees approval unless the planning commission denies it and they appeal to the Board of Trustees. So otherwise, planning commission will make final decision on their next step in the process. They've also showed us some conceptual of where they want to locate some of the playground areas, the two buildings, some of the landscaping, parking. This is the existing driveway off the church, and there's some existing buildings on the property that they're proposing to remain as is. So I just wanted to cover some of the highlights of this project. Like I said, the only zones that are allowed this type of use is commercial or this community service zone. Let's see if I covered all of these. They do need to tie into town water and sewer. So the church doesn't have town water and sewer, but this property, because it's annexed and they're going to develop on it, they do need to tie into town water and sewer. So right now, water is located at the stub out right here. The stub out right here in Dove Ranch, and sewer is located by the entry to Dove Ranch. So they're going to have to extend sewer and water mains, which eventually the town will take ownership of, and then they will have service lines that will be attached to the structures. They also will need to be sprinkled because of the type of use they are, and they do need to meet the town's building codes, so they've been working with us on how to make sure these modulars meet town building codes. We would call modulars temporary, but they're planning to keep them there for possibly 10 years, so we would need to review them as permanent structures at this point in time. And then I did include rezone criteria. Staff did go through the rezone process. I did include also all the uses that would be allowed in this community service zone, just so you can see. There's some uses that are allowed by right, which means it's just a site plan review after this stage, which is staff level. And then some uses that require the planning commission approval. And educational facilities is that planning commission approval. And then the criteria we do review just to make sure that this rezone is appropriate for this location and for this use. And so I did go through that. I won't go through detail, but the applicants did provide responses as part of their submittal. And then staff also provided responses for each of this criteria, and that's all in the staff report. Happy to answer any questions about that. But in staff's review of it, they appear to meet the criteria for the rezone process. We also do send out notices to local agencies, and we did get a few comments back, which I have sent to the applicants so that they know to be prepared for their next stage to make sure they address these comments. And I did add that as a condition of approval, that we'd like to see the agency comments addressed in their next submittal. And then staff did include, and so their next process, as I stated, is planning commission for rezone, board trustees next week for the rezone, and then planning commission again. I think they're aiming for August, but that will be determined once we receive a complete submittal for that next phase, which is a use by review and site plan process. So we do have a few findings. Staff is recommending approval again on this project because we do feel like a church property is an appropriate location for a private school. We also feel that the zone to community service is the best. We'd rather see that type of zone at this location than a commercial zone at this location. And they meet the factors in the land use code for a rezone. And so staff is recommending approval, but we do have a list of findings and conditions that we would like the planning commission to consider. And I do want to go through the findings. So findings is that the rezone as submitted meets the Bayfield comp plan and land use code. The rezone, and actually I want to touch on that real quick. So the comp plan, We don't have, in our comp plan, we don't have a comp plan land use district that's specifically for private schools. We have one for public schools, which is a little confusing, but the community service designation in the comp plan is for public, not for private. And so as we're updating our comp plan, it's something that I do want to look at. So right now, churches can go pretty much in every comp plan designation. So we have some in commercial, we have some on Mill Street, we have some in residential. For instance, Pine Valley Church is in the comp plan in the residential area. And so private school would fall under the same, similar to the churches. But I think as we're updating our comp plan, we should look at that more clearly in the future. And so that's why staff said it meets the comp plan, because technically churches are right now allowed in every designation in the comp plan. And this would be a private school associated with the church property. So the rezone as submitted meets the rezone factors in the land use code. And if approved, they do need to go through the use by review process in order to establish that use. And then staff did also put together a series of conditions. The first condition would be that if the Board of Trustees decides to rezone the property, the board shall adopt an ordinance for the property for the rezone. So that'll be in front of the board. You don't adopt the ordinance, but the Board of Trustees will have to do that. The use by review submittal shall include all requirements in the Land Use Code Section 311, which is all the criteria for a use by review submittal. The use by review submittal shall address all the review agency comments that are listed in the staff report, as I mentioned earlier. And then staff would also like the use by review to address the following. Because the existing property has some old buildings, including an old barn, we want to make sure that, especially with children on the property, that they're protected from those structures that look like they're in disrepair. So putting some fencing around to make sure that kids just can't wander into those old structures, as well as working with the ditch company to make sure that that's secured so that children can't, especially the ditch that's open. I think the ditch company is requesting that they pipe it all because of the use. And so just working with them to protect children from the ditch that's open. They do need to provide a traffic analysis, which is a requirement of the use by review, but specifically for County Road 501 intersection, and then CDOT has specifically asked them to also analyze the 160 501 intersection as well. They do need to have a proposal for stormwater facility location. They do need a geotech report for the foundation designs. They need a plan for removal of the modular structures when the school moves out. So because even though they're going to be there for a long period of time, they're still considered temporary structures, and if the school does ever leave the property, we want to make sure that they have a plan in place to remove those modular buildings. We want to make sure that if the project does not get approved, so if it does get denied for some reason, or if they can't move forward for some reason, we would like to have an idea from the church and the school of what they plan to do with the property through the use by review process. Now again, most uses would require a use by review process, so no matter what would go there, it would still have to come back through a process, but we'd like to have an idea of what their proposal would be if it doesn't go through. And then also Los Pinos Ditch Company did require that they want to require that it's piped, the ditch is piped, and that they need to have an agreement with the ditch company before we give final approval. So those are the conditions. Again, staff's recommending approval with those conditions and findings. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have of staff, and then I know that the applicant is also present and would like to speak.
Thank you, ma'am. Would the applicant like to speak at this time?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jeremiah Ackerman, a resident of Bayfield proper and a dedicated parent of 3 children who either attend or soon will be attending Hope Christian Academy. I'd like to start by thanking the Planning Commission and board members in advance for your consideration and hopefully your support. I'd also like to thank all the community members and parents for being here and taking time out of your evening with your families to be here and to be involved. If we've not earned your support yet, we sincerely hope to this evening. For those not familiar, Hope Community Christian Academy was originally founded in 2009 in Ignacio. Since then, the school has grown substantially and become well-respected in the community. They currently serve 130 students from 75 families, pre-K through 8th grade, while employing 12 teachers and 7 administrative staff. Class sizes are capped at 15 students, with 3 days of in-school instruction and 2 days of shared schooling at home. As a parent of the school, I can say this is truly the best of all worlds for our kids. I represent Hope Christian Academy, but more importantly, the best interest of its students, our kids, and their future. This permanent location would bring great certainty and stability to the school families and staff, among many other benefits I won't go into. This is why I'm here to advocate for the rezoning of the subject property at Pine Valley Church from residential use to community service. This rezoning would enable our beloved nonprofit shared school to relocate from Ignacio to Bayfield and continue providing an enriching, parent-involved educational environment. Assuming the commission and residents in attendance have reviewed the full project narrative and preliminary site plan that was submitted and made public, I don't intend to belabor details of the project. Rather, I'll provide an overview of why this location is a great fit for our use and no longer fits its previously intended use. Hope Christian Academy is more than just a school. It's a community that embraces values, fosters academic excellence, and nourishes young minds. However, our current location in Ignacio can no longer accommodate our needs, and available buildings suitable for our requirements are extremely scarce and, in fact, non-existent currently. This is why we've turned to Pine Valley Church as a potential new home for our school. The Pine Valley Church has graciously opened its doors and welcomed us, offering to share their property and some of their existing features, such as playgrounds, parking facilities, and playfields. This location really is a perfect fit for our school and makes sense in so many ways. It's important to note that while Pine Valley Church has generously provided us with this opportunity, our school and the church remain separate entities. Hope Christian Academy will continue to operate independently, as will Pine Valley Church. However, the mutual benefits and shared resources make this collaboration advantageous, not only for both organizations, but also for the community as a whole. In understanding the history of the subject property, we find that it was originally included in the Phase 2 plan of the Dove Ranch Subdivision Master Plan, which included an additional 300-plus homes. Due to the former developer's bankruptcy, the property was foreclosed on and eventually came under the ownership of Pine Valley Church. Imperative for consideration here is that Pine Valley Church has no intentions of developing the land for residential housing purposes. By rezoning the property to community service, we can repurpose it in a way that aligns with the visions of Hope Christian Academy and Pine Valley Church, while adding value to the Bayfield community. Concerns about possible impacts are valid and understandable. However, it's important to note that the school's operational schedule from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays will generate less traffic than the already established church events that occur on Sunday mornings and Wednesday evenings. As such, our presence should not impose a negative impact on neighboring properties. Furthermore, the site already possesses excellent access, nearby utilities, and infrastructure that can readily accommodate the school's needs. Rest assured, we want this to be a win-win for the Bayfield community and our school. This is why we've retained the help of professional engineers, consultants, and contractors to make sure we go about this project in the right way. To make sure we minimize impacts to the town and neighboring properties, we will continue to work closely with professionals, the building and planning department, and other applicable agencies to see this project fulfilled in good order. As a resident of Bayfield, I would like to highlight the growing need for additional educational opportunities in our community. As Bayfield continues to flourish and attract more families, it's essential that we encourage schooling options that cater to different needs. While public schools and homeschooling seem to be the only options currently, they do not suit every child. Hope Christian Academy fills a vital gap by offering a faith-based, academically rigorous, parent-involved education that resonates with many families in our community. On behalf of Hope Christian Academy and many of the constituents in attendance this evening, I implore the Bayfield Town Planning Commission and the citizens of Bayfield to support the rezoning of Pine Valley Church property from residential use to community service. This decision would allow Hope Christian Academy to take the next steps in the process of relocating to Bayfield, providing an exceptional educational experience for our students while greatly benefiting our incredible community of Bayfield. Thank you for your time and consideration, and we welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. So this is the public hearing of the this is the public hearing portion. So if you want to speak on this, step up to the mic, state your name and address, and we listen. And then make sure you sign the sign-in sheet at
There's
the
a
front door.
sign-in sheet at the back as well, so if you're speaking, please make sure you get on that, just so we can have proper spelling and everything for the record.
Hi there, my name's Daryl Rogers. Own a house that backs up right to the proposed property change.
Can you state your address for the record?
Well, address there, 1729 North Taylor Circle. So it's one of those 2 or 3 houses right against it. Having been an elementary teacher in Ignacio for a quarter of a century, I'm certainly in favor of schools and not against that idea. I have concerns about, we've had people come talking about sewer lines through my property and my neighbor's property and what that entails, what kind of, disruption that would be to our landscaping and sprinkler systems and those kind of things, how secure and safe the sewage is, how they plan to put that in. Also wondering what's in the future, what would be developed south of where the plan is, down toward the bottom that would impact perhaps the privacy of our houses there. Yeah, because I need to know what kind of, if they're putting a sewer line right through our properties, then what kind of impact that is, how they take care of that, how they address that to make it, restore it to what it should be and what the safety mechanisms are, or whatever.
So,
Okay.
sir, the portion of this is just a rezoning, so I would recommend, and I think it would also behoove you as well to be involved in the next process, because we'll most likely have further information of the actual development at that section, so.
Okay, and what time,
And-
is that
and
the one
we're
in?
going to take notes at this time. If there is anything that staff can address, we will get you before this meeting is over.
So.
Okay.
It's just, that was a process that the city was, staff was speaking
Is
about.
that the
next
one in a
portions.
couple of weeks, the next meeting, or?
I think it's to be determined at this time.
Yeah, it hasn't been set yet because they
Okay.
haven't submitted their application.
Because toward the July and August, I'm going to be out of state, so. Anyway, so I wanted to state my
Yeah, no, it's
thoughts.
good to get your concerns and
Yeah,
your comments here.
absolutely.
Okay,
Yep.
So,
thank you. Do I need to sign here too, or?
Either one or the other.
Good evening, Kat Katzos, 525 Dove Ranch Road. I would like to challenge the Planning Commission. How many approved developments in the last year and a half have been to increase residential districts? If housing is the #1 issue for the town of Bayfield, and standards and expectations have been set between the town, Region 9, and La Plata Economic Alliance to actively approve residential districts for housing, why would the town even consider this rezone request? The land is currently zoned R10 single-family residence. We have heard time and time again in town meetings about the high need for service employees' housing, such as teachers, fire department, law enforcement, and et cetera, not to mention housing growth that would, in fact, drive commercial development, such as a grocery store, services, and therefore increase sales tax for the town. I question the real motive by Foursquare. They, in fact, had a public announcement on September 9th, 2022, for a proposed $8 million event center. This event center will include a horse arena, amphitheater, RV park, and more. I'd ask the commission to go to page 2, bullet 7, number 5, and note the insinuation that the school is merely temporary with a statement, modulars to be removed when the school moves out. If you don't have an agreement between the school and the church to fully understand that commitment, I'd want that. Consider how the future proposal, $8 million event center, that this would be a entrance to once you rezone this, why not rezone the rest of the property to be a community service, therefore event center zoning, that is a non-tax-paying entity. How will that benefit the town? It's better to have housing there that pays some sort of property taxes to the town than nothing at all. So I am not in favor of this, especially since my home abuts this property. Thank you for your consideration.
Hello, my name is Robert Gallegos. I live in 1727 North Taylor Circle. And like Darrell Rogers, this directly affects me. Can I walk over to the middle?
Sure.
Okay. So our houses sit.
The church is track 3,
Okay, so we're back.
and here's Taylor's.
Yeah, North Taylor Circle comes over here. This is our outer court right here. That's privately owned. Town of Bayfield doesn't own that. We do our own snow clearing, all the rest of that items there. And the sewer and everything runs right through here. I spoke with Jeremiah just a few seconds ago. He let me know that the church doesn't have sewer lines or anything like that. They have septic and they have a well. So for me, I'm with Darrell, as long as it doesn't impact or tear up any of the things that we got going on there, I'm all in favor of it. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a chance to grow in a positive manner, give kids a chance. So I'm totally supporting that. I do believe that. My only concern or my only issue or thought process is who's going to pay to get these lines hooked up? Because it does run through private property. Am I going to be responsible for paying a portion of that? At one point you read where the town of Bayfield will eventually take that over and be the custodians of that. At what point does the town of Bayfield pay for that? You know, so that's just what I'm looking at as far as that go. I'm totally in favor of it. I support it. I think it's a good idea. Just want to know how it's going to impact me. Okay? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Darrell Getman. I live at 1334 County Road 501. Sorry?
Your name,
Darrell Getman.
thank you.
My property is directly north. The access road is my driveway. So, and just want to clarify that that is no longer a gas well access road. After I bought it, it is now strictly goes to my property, and I have an access agreement from 501 up to my property. It is also accessed by the state land, the school section that the church leases. I'm not completely against this proposal. Maybe I'd rather have the school there than 300 homes behind my property, next to my property. But I am a little concerned on the design and how it's going to affect me getting out of my property. The amount of traffic on 501, it is not an easy road to get out of. There's a lot of traffic that comes between Bayfield and Forest Lakes. There are times you can sit there for quite a while, so I'd like the Planning Commission, as we get further into this, really consider that intersection. It is not that safe of an intersection. So, but I just wanted to let anybody know that I'm for it, but I just would like to get further clarification on the design. There is some flaws on access to that property. I'm a little concerned there's only one access to that school. There probably should be another access to the Dove Ranch Road. And there is a road that accesses that property. So Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Brian Blanchard, 627 Louisiana Drive. I'm not for or against the project per se, but I am concerned about rezoning it into community service or commercial, because once you do that, what if the school vacates the property? It seems like that would open up a lot of possibilities for that property then to be redeveloped into something else. And I guess I would suggest, maybe is there a way that if the school were to vacate the property, that it would drop back to residential? If there's a way to supply both things. Allow the school, as long as they're there, that's fine. But if not, protect the citizens, protect the town, and revert back to R10. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Kristen Dallison. I live at 1162 North Cedar Drive. Just a disclosure, I do work for the town. I was on the town board for 7 years. I am here on my own volition, just as a community member and as a mom tonight, nothing else. As a parent of young children in the Bayfield community, I'm a huge supporter of school choice. Currently in Bayfield, we only have one choice, or we have to travel elsewhere in La Plata County. Many do this as they do not see the public school as an option for their family. I have 2 special needs children at home, and we will attempt to send them to our local public school. However, only time will tell if that's the best option for them. Many families with special needs choose to go to public school because the services are required to be provided. However, many also leave for private schooling because the public school system does not end up meeting their needs. Private schools give much more opportunity for smaller class sizes and more individualized attention on each student. Hope is a growing private school that can suit the needs for many families that are interested in a co-op education, a shared education between teachers at the school and parents at home. I see this project as a major benefit to the community and a best use of the property. Hope has 17 staff members, 124 students in the 2022-2023 school year, and I can only imagine that they will see much more growth if given this opportunity. Research has consistently shown that private school students tend to outperform their public school students in standardized testing. The National Assessment of Education process, which is often referred to as the nation's report card, assesses both public and private school students in subjects such as math, reading, science, and writing. Their data shows that private school students score much better in almost all subjects. On college entry tests such as the SAT, it has been found that students in private schools consistently outperform their public school peers in all areas. Private schools expect parents to be actively involved in their child's education. The concept of a 3-way partnership is an important part of the way that most private schools work, and many parents agree that it's the best of both worlds. While some people believe that private school is only for the rich and famous, the truth is that a good education at any school is about the quality of teaching and the programming. Hope does many fundraisers to keep their cost affordable to families and does provide financial assistance to qualifying families. They also have an Adopt a Student program that is a tax deduction for individuals and businesses that donate to Hope to cover educational fee costs for others. And I can imagine that this Bayfield community would love to help those families in need. I hope the Planning Commission and the board find that this is a great fit for our town.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, Planning Commission Board. My name is Cam Formby. My address is 2401 County Road 220, Durango. While I live in Durango, I currently travel all the way to Ignacio to send my child to Hope Christian Academy. I did live in Bayfield for 10 years, and now I will also make the trek over to Bayfield to find quality education for my daughter. As every parent here and every citizen should acknowledge that education is the most important thing that we can give to our children. I have made many, many sacrifices to send my child to this school, financially, work sacrificial, and I also have to work and homeschool my child at the same time. I would appreciate your consideration to rezoning this to a community service property so that we might give our children a chance to continue their education here in Bayfield. I do want to remind you that this is a K through 8th. Kids go to school full-time only Monday, Wednesdays, and, they go to school full-time Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They are homeschooled on Mondays and Fridays, so that does cut down on the traffic. I also want to let you know that while I spend money and time in Ignacio, because that's where my daughter is, that will also come here to provide more income for the town of Bayfield. Please go ahead and accept our application to doing this rezoning project so that we can keep our kids rich in education and let them flourish. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Brooke Smith. I'm at 1321 County Road 501, right across the highway from the church. I missed the beginning of the meeting because I just caught wind of it, so there may be some information that I'm seeking that has already been stated. I'm curious about the light pollution that would be caused by this, as I already received light pollution from the church. I'm curious about the traffic, and I heard somebody say that it would be considerably less traffic than what happens on Sunday, but Sundays we already receive the honking for Honk for Jesus for Sundays. Traffic coming from other towns, as was just stated, for students who would be attending this school, Durango, Ignacio traffic is a concern for me. And then noise from school is a concern. The highway access from 501 is a big concern, as my property is right across the street. And then also the biggest consideration is how will this rezoning impact other commercial businesses coming into that same space? So those are my concerns. I vote no.
Good evening, Board. My name is Tim Falconer. I live at 48 South Mesa Avenue. I want to talk to you guys about vision, because that's what a lot of this stems on. Remind you that in 1894, Mr. Bay and his wife settled right over here on Pearl Street, and they had a vision to make Bayfield a feed store or a feed supply area, so they donated 80 acres. That, to me, sounds like what Pine Valley Church does. They are having a vision for the community. Yes, they have a plan in place. They can raise the money to build an event center, but that is down the road, but it's a vision. Now they are embarking on another vision to support a Christian school to better the community. They're giving and donating their land, whether how temporarily that is, but they have a vision to not only provide a better choice for education, but to help other people in our surrounding community, whether it's Durango, Ignacio, Bayfield, or wherever the families come from that would need it. The school is on a time crunch because they're running out of time. And someone has stepped up and offered, yes, there is work to be done. There is work on infrastructure. There are concerns with traffic. There are concerns with noise. But if everybody, school, church, town, community, are all willing to put in the work and time, all of these things are overcomable. And I appreciate the fact that you guys are willing to listen and start the process of work along with all the other people in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Board. My name is Peter Lee. I live at 1577 North Cactus in Dove Ranch. Pretty new to this area. Just wanted to voice my full support for the school coming to Bayfield. I can tell you, I have 2 kids of my own that currently go to Hope. They've also gone to school in Louisiana and Texas. And I can tell you that there's no better school or program that my kids have been in any one of those states or anywhere up here as to Hope School. You know, from just the stuff that Hope does as far as, you know, community service, cleaning up, you know, cemeteries, spending time at senior centers, playing games with the seniors, stuff like that. It offers kids opportunities and an education outside of just your 9 to 5 regular, you know, 8 to 2, 8 to 3, whatever school hours are. Mundane school hours in class, schoolroom. So just wanted to voice my support for that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, I come representing Dave and Linda Hardy. They live at 496 Dove Ranch Road. I'm sure many of you have heard the name Dave Hardy in Bayfield before. He wanted me to share with you that they live at 496 Dove Ranch Road, and it is his understanding that Hope Community Christian Academy has requested it be allowed to establish their campus on property owned by Pine River Valley on 501. It is also our understanding the campus location is east of the current church, and that the land upon which the school is to be built will adjoin the Dove Ranch subdivision along its southern borders, and particularly along the west border. We understand that this will require rezone amendment to allow for the use as a school. It is our position that we wholly support allowing Hope Community Christian Academy to be built on the property owned by Pine River Valley. This academy will be a great asset to the church, to the community. Thank you for your consideration.
My name is Tia Swanemeyer. I live at 1849 County Road 316 in Ignacio. I am the board secretary there at Hope Community Christian Academy. I'm also head of the building committee. I am requesting that you consider our rezone for this property. This has been something that I've been working on, pouring my heart and soul into it since September. We have not had any luck finding a location for our school, and the Lord has opened a door, and the church has opened their doors. So I just ask that you consider this reason so we can proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Cat Katzos, 525 Dove Ranch Road. If I understood correctly, Nicole, you said that this type of entity can go into any zoning. Is that correct, or is it just churches?
Do you want me to answer that now, or? Yeah, okay.
Or do you want
yeah,
to wait till the end?
It's up to you guys.
Yeah, let's finish it. Let's see.
Okay.
We'll take it down. and we'll-
Because if it is allowed in residential, then I would propose that you keep it residential and not rezone it commercial or community service, if that's possible. I think that that would be a win-win, because then as a property owner next to that property, it's not opening the foothold for an $80 million event center. That you talk about light disruption at night, you talk about noise, you talk about traffic, you talk about second access off of Dove Ranch Road. You've got horse trailers and RVs. All of this is a potential. So when you talk about that vision, this is part of concern for a vision. How this impacts the property owners that would abut a event center such as that. So if possible, reconsider. Keep it residential. I'd be all for that. It's just the community service rezoning that I'm adamantly opposed to. Thank you.
The applicant would just like to make sure that we're disseminating our request and project from other projects that are not related. And I think that concern was related to another project that we're not discussing tonight.
Hello, I'm Kayla Patterson, and this is my daughter Emery. She would like me to speak on behalf of both of us tonight, although she might try and take a turn. I live at 43 Brookside Trail, Bayfield, Colorado. Emery will be attending Hope this fall, and we couldn't be more excited. We're extremely excited to have her join Hope for a wonderful school with wonderful children and amazing teachers, and an amazing opportunity that, look, there are several communities around us that do not have a school as committed to our children's education as Hope. So you can wave back, it's okay. We are extremely excited to have the opportunity to come into Bayfield, and as a parent who lives in Bayfield, I'm really happy that she's going to be right down the road from me. And so I absolutely am for this. I live here, I pay taxes here, I shop here, I take my child to the park here, and so I would love for her to be in school at Hope Christian Academy, just right down the road here in Bayfield. So please approve. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Kristen Packard. I live at 7936 County Road 501. I'm a staff member of Hope. I have two boys that have been at Hope from pre-K, kindergarten. Hope is our home, and it's home to a lot of other families, and it's been a roller coaster not knowing if we're going to have a future home. So this to my family and so many other families is, basically just being homeless. And it's a very big deal to a lot of people. So I just want you to take into consideration all the families that potentially are going to be homeless. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening. Excuse me. My name is Brian Kimmel. I live at 1000 Gigline Gulch Road in Durango. I'm here because I'm a grandparent of a couple of kids that one of just graduated from Hope and after first year of high school, and a couple more coming through because my daughter lives in the area, kind of right in the middle between Bayfield and Ignacio. So I also I've had a past business of helping people go through land use planning and permitting projects. And so I said, okay, if you're going to change this into another site, then you're going to run into a whole list of issues. And that was one of the reasons that you saw two different narratives, one about the rezone and the other about the whole project itself was. Because the way I always ran my business is you lay everything out so that folks, the public, yourselves, and everybody can see what's going on and make comments about it. And you want to get those comments early, and that's what has happened. We've got comments from the city engineers, the consulting engineers, we've got comments from the Platt Electric and everybody, and that's what we need right now. Because what the public understands eventually, once they get involved with some of these, that this is just a rezone, and this gives them, i.e. the applicants, the ability to say, okay, we can move forward now. And the next is the use benefit hearings, et cetera, that you prove that all this stuff can work. The engineering, et cetera, possibly landscaping, dealing with the ditch company. There's issues about fire hydrants and all that sort of thing. So what we're really here tonight for is just an opportunity to give the school the opportunity to go forward with this and to prove their point. So if there's any particular questions, be sure to ask myself or Jeremiah here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Ackerman, and I live at 411 East Columbine Drive, Bayfield, Colorado. And we currently have 2 kids enrolled in Hope, a third going to in the future. I'm really excited about us moving to Bayfield. We actually used to live at 1725 North Taylor Circle, right next to Robert over here. And having that community there with our school would be a really good benefit for us. I know that there's a lot of talk about light pollution and driveways and all that, but I live now right next to the 2 schools over here, and with the traffic and everything, there's always solutions to every problem, and they've done a great job with the construction and everything with those schools. So I'm really hoping that we can find a solution for our current situation with this project, and just really shed some really good light in our community with really good children. I know for the current situation with my home, we've had kids, because our property is not fenced off or anything, and the kids are pretty respectful. We've had a few incidences where things have been taken off our property and stuff from the local schools, with them walking on our property or by our property every day. But with this current situation with our school, is our parents are very involved, our kids are very involved, and our kids are really respectful. And again, we've cleaned up things. We are constantly in the community making sure that our kids are extra respectful. Our parents are involved, and we just hope that you guys will rezone this for us, and so we can just shed our light and our love on the community. So thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bridget Craig, and I live at 63 JJ Road, Bayfield, Colorado. And I have 6 children, 3 of which currently are enrolled at Hope and will be in Hope this coming school year. And then I also have 1 child that will be attending Bayfield Public School because there's some specific needs that he has that I feel like that might be a better fit for him. So I will actually have children in both. And I just wanted to say, kind of piggybacking off of what Tiffany indicated, was with this school, we have SSA days. So we go out and we do things in the community to benefit the community. In Ignacio, it's been clean up cemeteries, clean up even the playground of where we currently reside at El High. So we go out in the community and help clean it up and encourage the children to learn the importance of community service and being a vital role in the community, along with the Christian base of, with as far as people who live closely with the compassion and grace that the school instills in the children, and being respectful of, the light pollution, noise pollution, things like that. I feel like Tiffany said, there's always a solution. And I feel like in the community that I know of Hope, we're more than willing to meet everyone where we need to make this happen and find a good, stable home for our school. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Is that everybody that wants to speak tonight? Is that you in the back? We're good?
Good.
Okay.
All right, yeah, I'll go ahead and recap some of the ones that were just like questions and concerns, and some things we can answer now, some things we'll have to wait till we have more studies in place, as Commissioner Evans had stated earlier on. So the first one was concerned about sewer lines going across the properties or in the back of properties. And so again, we're requiring a utility plan as part of the next phase. And so as part of that, we'll understand where the utilities are proposing to be located, and we'll have a chance to have our engineers look at it and make sure they're the best location. So until we have that information, we really can't answer that question, but that is coming with the next phase. And then what will be developed south of the school, as of right now, there's no proposals in front of us for anything south of the school. The only proposal in front of us is for this school site at this location. And anything else, again, most things that are allowed in the community service zone do require a use by review, so they would have to come back through this public process if they wanted to do something else on that property in the future. But nothing's been disclosed to us for anything south of the school. There was a question about housing in Bayfield being our #1, and why would we consider rezoning it to something other than housing? And I would say the first answer is because the property owner is requesting it, and we're required to take anything through a public process when the property owner is requesting a rezone. The second thing is the towns, we've been very busy the last year approving a lot of development projects in the community, and we have enough housing in review to double the housing numbers, the housing stock in Bayfield. So right now we have 1,100 units. We have enough in review right now to double that without these properties being proposed. So again, the property owner has a right to propose a rezone. The property owner has a right to want to do housing in the future and rezone it back. And it would come through a process, and the Planning Commission and the Board of Trustees ultimately make the decision if this is an appropriate location for this. But right now, without these properties, we have enough to double the size of Bayfield. So I'd say yes, housing is very important to us, and yes, we've been doing a really good job of trying to review and approve housing, but we have a lot in review that could take years to build out as well. The event center, again, that has not been presented to us. We do know that there is a consideration for that in the future. That's not been presented to us as part of this project, so we're not reviewing anything associated with the event center. This is purely for the school. If this gets approved for the use by review, it'd be for a school, not for an event center. That would require a bigger process in the future than what this is going through. Let's see. And then to remove modulars, the staff has already asked that that be proposed as part of the next process, that there's a
Oh, sorry, when you're done. I'm
There's a
raising my
plan,
hand
okay.
patiently, sorry.
So during the use by review process, we are asking the applicant to provide us a plan for what they will do with the modulars if the school ever leaves that property. And so that is something we will have as a condition for that next process. And let me finish the last one. Well, the last one is just a non-tax paying entity. And again, kind of going, I'm going to, Kat had that comment as well as one later on about can we just leave it as residential? And the answer is no, schools are not allowed in residential zone. Our schools are all located in residential neighborhoods, but they've had to be rezoned community service. So every school in the town of Bayfield is zoned community service. All of our public schools are zoned community service. The Bayfield Middle School gym, the town's properties, we all have that community service zoning. And so this would be it'd be consistent with how we do and treat all our schools in the community. The only other zones that schools are allowed in is commercial, but commercial opens up a lot of different options for that property that the town doesn't want to see commercial operations on that property being where it's located. And so the only other zone is community service for a school and the current zoning for the town.
If there was some sort of expansion, would that require a use of review or a change from modular, which is still a temporary building? I know numerous states use them permanently, but would that go under use of review if they wanted to expand or change to a more permanent structure?
Any change. So that
Okay.
use by review will be specific only to the school and the school as proposed. So
Okay.
any expansions or anything like that would have to go back through the process.
Yep.
And as long as it's a school, it'd go back through the use by review process. If it's something else, it could be a different process. It just depends on what would be proposed there.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
So continuing on, let's see. Again, the sewer line, we'll be working through that as we get to those engineering plans. The sewer extensions will be paid by the school. The town, at some point, we take over all mains, so if a subdivision develops sewer mains and water mains, the town eventually takes over the maintenance responsibility of those mains. We do not maintain service lines. So you have a street, you have your sewer main in the street, and then when your house connects to that sewer main, that's your private service line. We don't maintain those. We only maintain mains. And so in the future, we would take over any main extensions for this project, but their service lines would always need to be maintained by the property. Jeremy,
Yeah,
can you add to
and
that?
just for some of the residents that had concerns about the utilities, public utility would never be installed on private property, just so you're aware of that. So there would be no chance whatsoever that any public utility from the town would be installed through any of your private property in there. It would have to be in a formal utility easement and have access designated for the town to maintain in perpetuity.
In terms of access, again, we are going to be requiring traffic analysis for this project to look at the intersection of 501 and the driveway, as well as the highway and 501. So those will be documents that would be coming as part of their next submittal, and our engineers will be reviewing those documents as well as CDOT and La Plata County. So they're going to have a lot of review on what the access looks like for this property. Let's see. And then also, if there is a need for a secondary access or a secondary emergency access, which means it might be gated, but if there was an emergency, that access would be opened. We will be looking at that as part of that when we get into that development stage of this project. So I can't answer that right now. It's possible they need a second access. It's possible they don't, but that'll come at that next stage. I think Mr. Blanchard had a good point, and staff actually did ask this question of our town attorney, which is if the school does not go through with this project and we're rezoning it for the school, can it revert back to the original zone? And the answer is no, because it's adopted by ordinance, but the answer is also that the town can initiate a rezone with a property owner. So we could work with the property owner and say, we would like to see this rezoned back to residential if the school does not occur. So we would have to go back through this whole process and this public hearing process. But again, it was a good question, and staff actually did ask that same question of our town attorney. In terms of light pollution, that's something we will be working with. We do have lighting standards in the town, and as I mentioned earlier, the church property is not in the town limits, so I don't have any enforcement action over the church property, but this property is in the town limits, so we do have a lot more ability to enforce and make sure they meet our lighting standards. And some of our lighting standards, it just depends on how what they propose, but requires them to turn off at a certain time too, so it's something we'll be looking at as part of the next phase of this project when we get into those details. I already talked about traffic and access. We're going to have a traffic analysis. There was a question about rezoning affecting other commercial businesses at this location. There's no other commercial businesses proposed in front of us at this location. It's just the school that we are in review of. Let's see.
That's what I have.
I think that's, yeah, those are the main questions. And like I said, a lot of these details will be figured out during the use by review site plan review process, where we actually get the engineering plans, any environmental plans, access plans, and all of that. So we just don't have a lot of the details at this point in time. Really, the point of the rezone is to, again, ask the Planning Commission and Board of Trustees, is this appropriate location for this type of use? And if it is, they can proceed forward with those detailed plans so that we can make sure it's developed appropriately for that location.
I guess I have one question for you. Maybe it's a two-tiered question. With the sewer and water taps, how many of each would they have to purchase?
So that is yet to be determined. Sometimes it's a large one They're gonna have to sprinkle, so we're gonna have to figure that out and work with their engineer to determine what's appropriate. It's also based off fixture count and all that, so we'll know that as we move forward. But there will be at least one, but I don't have the answer yet until we get into that detail.
Well, I guess my second part to that question is then, does the church get a tie into those?
So the church has told me they're not interested in the town water at this time, but that they would probably be interested in sewer. If sewer is going near the church, they would have to go to the Board of Trustees and do what we call a pre-annexation agreement, so that if ever they're at the point the town says we want you to annex, because they're eligible to annex the southern church property, tract 3. Tract 2 is not eligible because it's not, you have to be 1/6 contiguous to town property, and tract 2 is not quite there yet. Tract 3, though, where the church is eligible. At this point, annexing the church doesn't really do anything for the town, because somebody had mentioned, you know, they're non-taxpayers. So there's not a benefit to the town to annex the church property, but they are allowed to tie into sewer if they go through the Board of Trustees process.
And the quick answer is no. If the parcel is separate, one sewer tap, one water tap, no shared services for separate parcels.
Yeah, they'd have to have their own service lines, but they can share the mains that go through.
The main would be owned by the town.
Yeah, they can go off the main.
Thank you.
If I could ask a quick question of the
Can
gentleman.
you-
You have to step up to
To the podium.
State your name and address again, just for our notes.
Robert Gallegos, 1727 North Taylor Circle. So my question, whenever you're talking about that, we're going to go from what we have now in our outer court there, the 6 houses that are using that area. Then we're going to go to 135 plus at the school. So if the church taps into that as well, now we have that many more. Can the infrastructure hold that?
There's capacity.
Okay. All right. And just one last question. Last week, there were people surveying between my house, and said they were part of this process. I don't know who they were. They didn't show me an identification, but they were already on my property, already surveying. So I don't know if you guys knew anything about that?
No, I don't. The only people that have been operating in the neighborhood North Taylor Circle that town's aware of is Clear Networks,
Yeah,
Deeply Digital, and they've been installing fiber optic.
Yep, and I've seen those guys, and I know who they are. They've actually showed me their credentials of what they're doing. Just the 2 guys that were surveying, I've never seen them before. They weren't in a company truck. They were just doing their thing. And that's why my concern, and that's why I talked to Jeremiah about that, of how they were going to run and why they were running between my house and Daryl's house, as opposed to just going from the church. So, okay, thanks. That answered my question.
All right, anybody else? Because then I'll close this portion of the public hearing and move into the public meeting agenda.
Jeremiah Ackerman, 411 East Columbine. On behalf of the applicant, I just wanted to reiterate a couple of things. If that property is not used for this purpose, there's no other purpose we're aware of that the church has in plan. It's not going to be developed residentially, so that's, I know that's a concern of some constituents, but it's just not going to become housing. The event center is a separate project. It's also a separate parcel that does not involve this piece. So I just, again, would like to make sure that we keep that a separate project that is not, that we're not asking for consideration on at this time. And that would be a project of Pine Valley Church, not Hope. And then I know access is a big concern in and out there on 501. I would like to note, while we will do the necessary studies and whatever we need to make sure that's safe for students and families, in the many years that church has been there, with events, fundraisers, concerts, funerals, church services, you name all the different events, there's not one accident recorded at that intersection. So while we will take that very seriously, it has not been an issue with the heavy loads of traffic that have occupied that space up to this point. Thank you.
I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Since you guys are putting so much money, effort into this, why only 10 years?
I'm not sure where 10 years came from. We're looking at this as a permanent
As a
location.
long-term?
Yes, and that's what we're moving towards. 10 years may have been mentioned in passing or, off the cuff at some point, but we are applying. Modulars are considered permanent. They're used in many different aspects throughout the county. In permanent situations, we intend to install these permanently, maintain them permanently, and if we were to move and do something different, we would certainly have a contingency plan for that.
All right, thank you, sir.
Mhm.
I think the 10 years was, like mentioned in one of our earliest conversations, when the school was looking at track 2 as a permanent location and then doing the modulars temporarily till they can afford to build a actual structure in track 2.
Yeah,
But
that may be where that came from.
All right, with that being said, I'll close the public hearing agenda and we'll move on to the public meeting agenda. 3A, action minutes.
just want to reiterate real quick for the public that we do the action agenda separately, so you have to listen to our other 2 items before you get a decision on this. So just hang
stick
tight.
around.
Suspense.
So action minutes is my item. So good evening, Planning Commission. I'll be brief. Before you is a proposal to change to action minutes from the current transcribed minutes. Minutes are important to the record, but also they take a lot of staff time to produce. The proposal is to move to action minutes with substantive information and public comment included. There's a table included in your packet as a suggested format. On June 6th, the Board of Trustees approved going to action minutes, so staff hopes for consistency with the Planning Commission.
I would raise a motion to approve. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
You really?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
It's
Just talking about it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Got me all flabbergasted.
You're on it.
All right, thank you for that. We'll move on to 3B, land use application and building permit fees schedule and amendments.
Yes, and so we have 2 different fee schedules that have been adopted for the town. One is the land use application fees and the other one is the building permit fees. And both of these were adopted by resolutions. The land use application fees were adopted December 7th of 2021, and the building permit fees were adopted May 16th of 2023. As you are all aware, we just adopted the 2018 International Building Codes, and usually when a community adopts building code, they do need to make some adjustments to their building permit fee schedule to align with those newer building codes. But at the same time, I've been here a little over a year now and been using the land use application fees, and there are some things that are missing or some things that really don't cover the time that we spend processing those projects, and so I'm proposing changes to both fee schedules. They both do need to get approved by resolution from the Board of Trustees, and so I'm looking for just a recommendation from the Planning Commission. I did include the old fee schedules, and then I redlined those so you can see what the new proposals are. Like I said, the land use application fee schedule had some things missing, that we have projects in our land use code, so we need to have a process and a fee for those. And then the building permit was actually very minor. I think just changing it to the 2018 references, as well as adding a solar permit fees. We've been getting a lot of solar permits lately. They don't require a ton of staff time, and so I really wanted to, we've been using the plumbing mechanical fees, and I really wanted to create its own process and reduce those fees so that we encourage solar taught throughout the community. I also am looking at reducing the mobile home and tiny home permits. We've gotten to that process where that's reduced staff time as well. We don't need as much inspection time on those. So reducing those permits, again, those are attainable, affordable housing options in our community, and wanting to make sure the permits are not too expensive for those. And then also adding a demolition permit, because we didn't have a fee for that as well. And then the last one is in adopting our new codes. There's a section in the codes that allows us to charge a fee for buildings that have started without a permit, and we've never had that before. And so what we're looking at is one additional times the building permit fee. So if the permit fee is $500, they'd have to pay $500 plus their permit fee of $500. So it'd be $1,000 to get that permit if they go through and do the work without getting a permit initially. As we hopefully will be getting a code enforcement officer in the near future, that's something that we can track and find a lot easier once we have somebody out there doing that job in town.
We've never had one violation on that. I find that hard to believe.
I get
but-
them. No, I get them. We just didn't have a fee
we didn't have a fee.
established.
Okay.
So we can't charge them anything.
Gotcha.
So now we can charge them if we adopt this. So any questions on fees?
All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the action agenda. 4A, approval of the May 9th, 2023 minutes.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes from May 9th, 2023.
I will second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gad?
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington?
Yes.
Commissioner Snooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Chair Nyberg?
Yes. All right, moving on to 4B, 2023-10 Pine Valley Foursquare Church rezone for Hope Community Christian Academy.
I'll raise a motion to approve with the verbiage.
Findings and conditions.
Finding conditions laid out by staff for 2023-10 Pine Valley Foursquare Church rezone for Hope Community Church Christian Academy.
I'd second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gad?
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington?
I always like to go on record right here before I say my vote. I just want to remind the public that this is not a said done deal. This is a first in the hurdle of what's to come. I myself live at 203 Dove Ranch Road, and I have a ton of questions and a ton of concerns, but I am all for this project, so I will give it a yes.
Commissioner Snooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Chair Nyberg?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on to 4C.
Can I
act-
announce real quick, because I know people might want to leave. This will be on the Board of Trustees for final decision next Tuesday, same time, same place. So Tuesday, the 20th, 6:30 here. Hopefully the air conditioning will be working. But that keeps, comments down a little bit too. It's so hot.
And thank you all for coming. Thank you for getting involved and being part of this process. We appreciate you coming to our meetings.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
So moving, we'll 4C action minutes. I'd entertain a motion.
I will raise a motion for a second time to approve standardizing and utilizing action minutes for the Planning Commission.
I'll second.
Oh, you got it.
I hear a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gad?
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington?
Yes.
Commissioner Snooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Chair Nyberg?
Yes.
And for the record, I had action in it twice, so that's why I got a little excited.
All right, moving on to 4D, land use application and building permit fee scheduled amendments.
Go
Go for it.
I will raise a motion to approve the amendments to the land use application and building fee schedule, permit fee schedule. Apologize.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gad?
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington?
Yes.
Commissioner Snooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Chair Nyberg?
Yes. All right, moving on to 4, discussion and adjourn. Just some house cleaning. June 20th, 2023 is the next board meeting of the trustees. June 27th, 2023, next comp plan working group meeting. July 4th, canceled board meeting. 4D, July 11th, 2023, next planning commission meeting. And then I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Oop. Thank you, guys.